Hey, hey, hope everybody's doing well. Today I'm going to get into scales. I made some slides. I'm going to embed those over top of this. You'll see me come back and forth, and then also have these slides that I've prepared, and we're going to talk about scales. We're going to get into what scales are, construction of some pretty common scales, and yeah, so scales. They're not just for fish anymore. There will also be cheesy jokes. So, love that. What is a scale, you ask? A scale is a series of notes from which we build melodies and harmony. And melody is the notes that are going on in the song. So, Amazing Grace, ba 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 ba. And harmony, oh, getting a text. And harmony is chordal, so it's melody applied to chords. So the chords that are going under the melody are the harmony. Also, we can build harmony off of the melody. And different scales create different feelings and moods. So having a few at your disposal is key, another cheesy joke, to being a great musician. Background information. We need to grasp a few things before we get into building scales. Intervals are the spaces between notes. The most basic of these is a half tone. We will use a capital H in these slides to mark a move of a half tone between two notes. Two half tones make up a whole tone, or one key on a piano, one fret on a guitar, or a bass. Those are each a half tone. So fret 1 to fret 2 is a half tone, and two keys that are right next to each other on a keyboard are a half tone. Two half tones, or two frets or keys, make up a whole tone. So if you skip a key, or you skip a fret, like first fret to third fret, that's a whole tone. Natural notes are what a note is called when it's just the letter of the note, such as G, C, B, A. Those are all natural notes. A sharp is a symbol that's used to indicate a note being a half step above the natural note. So A sharp would be on the fret or the key immediately above the A. G sharp is the example I use. So G sharp is one fret or one key right above G. A flat is used the opposite. A flat is used the opposite. It's one half step below the natural note. And so A flat, the note, not the word A, is one half step or one fret or key under an A. Each sharp also has a flat name. For instance, C sharp can also be called D flat, and G sharp happens to be A flat. That's why I got confused reading the last slide. The letters go in alphabetical order with sharps and flats between. The only two sets of notes with no sharp and flat between them are B and C and E and F. So you look on that keyboard there, E is right next to F with no black key between them. B is right next to C with no black key in between them. And I say be calm, everything's fine. To remember those. Be calm, everything's fine. B, C, E, and F. A major scale is the most basic and fundamental scale in music. A major scale has a certain set of rules that, if followed, make it a major scale. Major scales have 7 unique notes. The 8th is the same as 1, so that's the octave. An octave is the same note up or down one version of that note. First note is the name of the key, i.e. G major scale starts on a G note. From the first note, you move up in intervals that are whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that will make a little more sense on the next slide when we can visualize it. But from the first note, you start on the first note which is the name of the scale, go up a half or a whole tone, that's the next note. A whole tone above, that's the next note. A half tone above, that's the next note, so on. Each letter is present in a major scale. Each letter happens only once in a major scale, and sharps and flats do not appear in the same major scale. Now for major scale construction. Using what we have learned, let's build a C major scale. By the way, I'm coughing. I have really bad allergies from this weather that's coming in. I don't have coronavirus. Starting with the letter C, which we call 1, we're going to go up a whole tone. The next note, or 2, is a whole tone away. Using the keyboard below, we can see that the note a whole tone away is a D. Blue dots are notes we've found to be in the scale. So if you look at where it says 1W, 2W, 3H, that's the notes, that C is 1, and then we go a whole. The green letters are the intervals, and the white numbers are the number of the note in the scale. So 1, go up a whole tone, to 2, which is D. We can continue this form on through the scale following whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half. Each red line is a half step. When we need a whole tone, we count 2 red lines or 2 half steps. Blue dots are still the notes in the C scale. So we go C, whole tone, which is skip a black key, to D. Half and half is a whole, to E. The next, from the third note to the fourth note, is a half step, to F. Whole to G, whole to A, whole to B, half to C. And there again, 8 is the same as 1 because they have the same, they are the same note. They're not unique notes in that scale. Sharps and flats. As I said before, sharps and flats do not exist in the same scale. This means that when we have a black key or non-natural note, each of these in a scale will be the same. You either have sharps or flats. We know which it is based on the letter we've gotten to in the scale for the first accidental or non-natural note. For example, the D major scale is the notes D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. We know the F has to be sharp because F is the next letter in the alphabet after E. After traveling a whole tone, we land on that black key that is called F sharp, G flat. You'll see that that's the third blue dot down at the bottom. We have to call it F sharp because to call it G flat would skip the letter F. And if you go back to major scale rules, you'll see that you have to have every letter and have to have every letter only once. Similarly, if you had to name a note flat to have it be the next letter, that's what you would call it. So if you were going a half step above an A in a given scale, that would be B flat, not A sharp, because you already have an A in the scale. Let's do another, looking at a scale with some sharps. We used D, which has some sharps, but we'll actually look at a complete scale. And remember that a keyboard from left to right, right to left just keeps going. And so when you see this one, start at G and pretend that the C on the left is a continuation of the C on the right. So how about G major? We start on G, we count 2 red lines or 2 halftones to A, 2 more to B, then a halftone from the third to the fourth, which is B to C, halftone. There again, B to C does not have a black key between, so that is a halftone between those natural notes. C goes 2 half steps to D, D goes another whole step to E, and then another whole step takes us from E to F sharp, the same way that it did on D on the last slide, and then another half tone takes us back to G or 1. We see that the key of G has 1 sharp, and it is in the F position of the scale. Each letter has a position in the scale because, like we said earlier, every letter is there and every letter is there only once. And so each letter has a position in a major scale, and it can either be natural, sharp, or flat. In the key of G, the F is sharp, and that is the only letter that is not natural. So now you're thinking this. So, like, are you about to make me do a major scale based on every note of the guitar or the keyboard or the bass? And the answer is yes. Yes. Just kidding. I'm not going to make you do every one, but if you want to build a few for practice, you'll never have more time than right now. In college, my instructors always told me, you never have more time than right now. And I didn't really understand what that meant until I started having to pay taxes and put gas in my car and cut the grass and do the dishes and do all this other crazy stuff that happens when you grow up. But y'all don't have those responsibilities. And on top of that, we're all staying at home right now. And so you're sitting around bored, do some of these. Do some of these scales, write some of them out. You can always email them to me. You can get a hold of me through the school. I can check them. If you want to kind of treat that like some homework, I can go through it with you, and we can build on that. And so, yeah, do that if you feel so inclined. That's going to help you know your way around the neck of your guitar. That's going to help you know your bass better. It's going to help you kind of lay out the keys better. So it's always a great idea to work on some of these. Another interval that we will look at is the third. There are 2 types of thirds, major and minor. And a third, if you think about like it's the third note, if you call 1 1, the next one is 2, the next one is 3. That's why it's called a third. A minor third is a whole tone and a half tone together, which a whole tone being 2 plus 1 makes for 3 half tones, which means 3 keys or 3 frets. The major third is 2 whole tones, which is 4 keys or 4 frets. I will use lowercase m3 to indicate minor thirds, and a major is uppercase M3. So study that. I'm going to give you kind of just a second to read through that again. A minor third is 3 half tones, 3 keys, 3 frets. A major third is 2 whole tones, 4 half tones, 4 keys, 4 frets. Using thirds, we can look at 2 other very important scales, the pentatonics. Like a pentagram or a pentagon, they're based on 5. Remember, the same letter is the same number, not a unique note. The 5-note minor pentatonic scale uses the intervals minor third, whole tone, minor third, whole tone. So an A minor pentatonic is A, C, D, E, G, A. And if you want to go, I will embed the keyboard in a slide here so that you can look at that again. The minor pentatonic is a minor third, whole tone, minor third, whole tone. So I'll have a slide popping up right here that says that. The major pentatonic goes in the intervals whole tone, minor third, whole tone, minor third. So same thing, C to D is a whole tone, D to E, whole tone, E to G, minor third, G to A, whole tone, A to C, minor third, and that's C major pentatonic. Again, we start on the root, or the name of the scale, and travel the intervals above to find the next note. Give me a second to look over those keyboards. Now you're thinking this. So, like, are you about to make me do a major and minor pentatonic based on every note of the guitar? The answer, yes! Yes, I am. You must do them all. Ha, just kidding. But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's a quote from Wayne Gretzky. And all of that is a quote from Michael Scott. And if you don't watch The Office, ignore this slide entirely. Basically, what that means is it's on you to take this information and run with it. You can go in, if you went in and mapped out every major scale, every major pentatonic, every minor pentatonic, you know your way around. And then if you applied those to your instrument, you know your way around your instrument, and then you're really off to the races. Other scale formulas. Minor is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So if you wanted a minor scale, you would get that. Mixolydian, which is really great from going for going between a 1 and a 4 chord, or a 5 and a 1, which we'll kind of get into more in a charting or mapping class. Basically, if you're going from, like, if you count starting on the first letter in your major scale, if you say C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4, going from C to F, a Mixolydian scale is really great. It's very similar to major with one little difference. Same thing, G, A, B, C. If you go G to C, 1 to 4, G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, a G Mixolydian scale would sound great between those. A diminished is a little bit strange. It's either whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, or half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole. It's kind of a strange one. You can kind of mess with it. I threw that in there for y'all to have fun with. I'm going to wrap all of these up with just a slide saying thanks, everybody, for keeping in touch with us, for staying home, staying safe, and we look forward to seeing everybody in person again. Please feel free to contact us if you need any more information, and we'll be putting content out pretty regularly to keep everybody engaged. So have a great time, have a great week, stay safe, and stay healthy. See you all soon.